Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me more than my washer on right now. I could shut that door, but the setup's already kind of not great from the fact that I'm moving house. And I think my camera's a little crooked because I'm not using a normal tripod. Hi, I am here to do my June reading wrap up. I clearly have been very busy, but other than that, I feel like I've been a little bit hesitant to do this simply because June was not a great reading month. Didn't finish a lot. Well, I only DNF'd one book, but I mean, like, I just didn't read a lot of books. I have more audiobooks, but that's okay. Also, I ordered Naive Super from Vinted, and the seller also sent me this book. I've never heard of it before. They just threw it in, which was very kind. Show them a good time. I know I was reading the synopsis. It's a ton of short stories, so I'll definitely check it out, read it, but so nice of that person to do. Let me just get into my June reading wrap up. So I started June listening to Stonewall Reader. So it's an audiobook all about Stonewall, which happened in 1969, the Stonewall riots. It's not just about Stonewall in the sense that it has a lot of queer people just telling their stories and their experience, I think, growing up in that area, and also just like some queer stories, but also then it goes into interviews with people who were at Stonewall. If you don't know about the Stonewall riots, first of all, highly recommend listening to or reading this, as it is very informational, but also just very interesting to hear from people who were there, like exactly what happened with these riots, with the police, and like the police brutality and the abuse and the just anti-LGBT mentality. Obviously, we still have a lot of issues with that. One, it is nice to remember that queer people have always been around, as much as a lot of right rhetoric likes to spew that, like, oh, all of a sudden everybody's queer, whatever. It's like, no, it's just like, it was very suppressed for a long time, and now it's being suppressed again. And also for a lot of things that it's like, oh, people are suddenly this, suddenly that. No, people of all different identities and everything have always been around. It might just seem more prevalent in the age of social media because we can have access to more people than we ever had before. And also you're just prejudiced and rude and awful and terrible. But anyway, highly recommend Stonewall Reader. Next, I started reading Feybound. It is also a queer story, a fantasy story, and it was very interesting. The main reason I DNF'd is because it was expiring at the library, and I wasn't into it enough to like have to renew or like, I don't know, go out and purchase it so I can finish reading it. I mean, eventually I kind of want to come back to it and see if maybe I approach it at a different time in my life. I'm more interested in it. Sorry, I just realized that the way I'm holding my mic, I'm kind of breathing down on it, so that audio probably wasn't lovely and beautiful and amazing. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so it is a story about elves. I know I kind of misspoke in a previous video on what it is. Yes, Feybound, it obviously is about Fae, but from the start of the story, we are following elves, one of which is the chief, like commanding chief. I can't remember the exact title, but like an army leader, general maybe. Again, this was like beginning of June, and I've been so busy. She was leading this army, and things go wrong. She ends up not being able to do that and not being able to continue on the path that she was on, and it really throws like a wrench into her whole life. She ends up being exiled out of the elven lands. Just the sound of my washer again. I am gonna shut this door. See how much quieter it is now that I've shut the door and you don't have to hear my laundry? Should have done that from the beginning, but I just didn't want to. So next, I actually listened to this in audiobook form as well. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jenette McCurdy. I know that's been around forever, been very, I can't think of a single, like I do this all day, every day for the past month. I have been doing this where I am blanking on every word ever, and it's really driving me nuts. And I know, especially recently, I've not been sleeping well, so that's probably why. But I know it's been given its laurels. Maybe that's what I was looking to say. And it's very highly acclaimed. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jenette McCurdy. And I 100% agree with all the positive reviews, and I'll get into why. So basically, this book is like a memoir. I would classify it as a memoir about Jenette McCurdy's life, because it does start very early on in childhood to, I'm sure, close to when this was published. It was a very interesting look into a child actor's life. Child actors, again, it's a topic talked about a lot. I think a lot recently as well. There have been documentaries, especially she was on iCarly on Nickelodeon, as we know. What's his face? I can't remember his name. He obviously was a creep and a bad person and did awful things. And Jenette McCurdy worked with him, so as he was the creator of a lot of Nickelodeon shows, so it was interesting to hear that. And also in the book, she refers to him as the creator. But there is a lot that she goes into, but it isn't just about like her experience with him and with acting and her job. There's a lot in her personal life, and of course, as the title suggests, a lot with growing up with her mom, the experience. I didn't know she was Mormon. So it's very interesting to hear about like the perspective of someone who had an abusive childhood and also was a child actor and all of that kind of stuff. I was very much enthralled. There was times where I was walking home from the bus stop and I would take a longer walk because I wanted to hear more about what she was talking about, wanted to hear what happened next, hearing about everything she went through with her mental health as well. So very, very interesting to hear. And like I said, I do think she is really good at writing memoir. She did it in a way that very much captured my attention and kept my attention. And she was the reader of it in the audiobook format. So if you do listen to the audiobook, I felt like that was added on to the experience to have the author reading her exact words. I think there was one point she did start like choking up, tearing up towards the end. So that was, it's really immersive in that way. It gave me a lot to think about. Like it was one of those that you are going to hear about a lot of tough topics, but important topics to speak about. Something that I don't know if I've spoken about before on this channel, but like when it comes to media and like censorship, and a lot of people, I know I've spoken before about like people sometimes will say like, oh, reading these books with these problematic topics makes you problematic. Like, oh, you shouldn't read a book that has abuse, that has a kind of, but that doesn't mean anything about you reading this book. And these are topics that should be talked about because one, people going through certain things might not realize that it is abuse or whatever, and media can help them in that way. And people who haven't gone through certain things that might be difficult and considered problematic or like often censored and that kind of stuff. It's still important for you to learn about these things in a safe way, and consuming it through media where you're not actually gonna get hurt and like that kind of stuff is a safer way to learn about these things that are important to talk about and to learn about. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I also, again, like everything else I listened to, I started Piranesi when it comes to reading, but because I feel like I need to be way further, like I need to be practically done with Piranesi. I need to be done with Piranesi to give like a synopsis and review because of the, I don't want to say density of the book, but it is not as straightforward plot-wise. I know a lot of people will say it's no plot, just vibes. I feel like there can be a bit of a plot. Maybe I'm making up a plot. I do want to finish it before I review. I did like it, but like I said, I didn't physically read a lot in June. I just wanted to give that disclaimer because the next is a Darius the Great Deserves Better. It is a YA queer romance about a boy named Darius, and he's a queer teen. He's dealt with bullying and prejudice and all that awful stuff that just simply shouldn't be happening. But he has a boyfriend. However, he is getting closer with one of his teammates. He is becoming a good friend, and Darius is starting to have these thoughts of like, hey, he's kind of attractive, and no, because I like really like my boyfriend, but like, so basically, yeah, it is that kind of YA romance. It's very YA. It kind of reminded me of Heartstopper. It has those really wholesome moments. Then there's also the flip side of he's getting bullied by classmates. So the relationships and the families and the friendships with giving kind of Heartstopper, especially since there's also dealing with queer issues and that kind of stuff that teens might go through. Finally, I listened to the transgender issue. It is a book by a British trans person, and it talks a lot about these systemic issues that trans people go through, but not just the systemic issues. There is like personal stuff as well, and also like what I mean by that is kind of like personal transphobia, like more like the individual type deal as opposed to the systemic transphobia. But there was a lot about the systemic transphobia, a lot about what policies are in place. So it's a very educational read or listen or however you want to consume it. So again, another one I highly recommend, and also important, especially if you're not trans, to learn to be a better ally, to help in the, and again, I'm blanking on words. I guess I'm going to say like journey is not the word I'm looking for, but the fight against systemic transphobia. Yeah, I'm not wording anything very well right now. I'm sure you can see it, how tired I am. And I'm just like I have so much going on in my world right now, in my life right now. But I still read, and I still wanted to make videos. I still love making videos, so obviously I'm here doing this, and I appreciate all the support, likes, comments, surprising. Please don't surprise me. I actually really don't like surprises. Subscribe though. I appreciate everyone who has subscribed and all that good stuff, and anyone going to subscribe from this video, I appreciate it. So I will continue to make videos, reading wrap-ups monthly that will hopefully come sooner every month than they did this month. I have a fun video planned so like Naive Super was recommended by a friend, and I have been reading books recommended by friends. I'm like barely into July. I've already finished a couple books. So like I said, June wasn't a good reading month, but July is already much better. So when that July reading wrap-up comes out, it's gonna be so much better. And like I said, I have a video plan where I'm specifically talking about books recommended to me by friends and family. And I am still, I have those bookshop interviews that I've been doing and still have some coming up. It's just been a very busy time. So again, really appreciate the continued support through this time. And if you want to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, appreciate it. But I'm gonna go now. Bye.